Hey guys, it's LB Ninja, also known as Chris or Hinata, Nature, whatever you want to call me. This is gonna be my first YouTube video, definitely my first WoW video. I've thrown out a couple videos for other games in the past, but not really committed to anything. But I've been playing a ton of WoW, love it. It's a fun game, and I've really been enjoying Mistweaver Monk. So today I wanted to make a guide video on Mistweaver Monk, not just because I like it and because I wanted to make a video, but there are so many people swapping to it now that we can have covenant swaps, and so many people not playing it right. It seems simple to play. I mean, it has like a basic concept. You just use this new ability called Fallen Order, but it's kind of like an added mini game. Like you already have a mini game of being in like a melee healer, but it can kind of get complicated to get used to. But once you get used to it, you will absolutely pump. But I've just been seeing people in like my pug keys and my pug raid groups who just are they just don't have it yet, and so I decided to make a video for people like those guys. So yeah, let's get started. So first, yeah, we're playing around this Fallen Order ability. It's going to be your primary source of healing. You summon a bunch of clones of yourself, and they'll enveloping, or I don't even know what this ability is called, soothing mist, to lock on to someone like in your raid group or your group that's injured, and they'll just start spamming that ability, and then enveloping mist if they get low. So where this ability kind of gets out of hand, kind of nuts, like healing wise, is when you pair it with the Covenant Legendary. So this legendary is where it just gets absolutely disgusting. So you'll summon one additional adept, which isn't what's broken about it. What's broken is every time you crit while you have your Fallen Order monks out, it'll reduce the cooldown by 5 seconds, and it's kind of insane. So the cooldown of this ability is 3 minutes. So you're probably saying, well, if I just crit, what is that, 36 times in that 24-second window, then I'll just have it off cooldown immediately. As much as I would love for that to be the case, that would be so dumb and busted. It's just not. I'll get into that later. Let me first start off with so when you're doing this build, let me talk about the talents that you want to build. Now these talents today I'm just gonna go over for raiding, because you can put out some stupid numbers in raid. You will top the charts. Like this was like one of my worst pools on details here, and you just put out dumb numbers. But so here's how you do it. So let's go to the talents. And I'm just going to call out a few, the couple of important ones. Rising Mist is very strong. Anyone that you have your Renewing Mist on, or Enveloping Mist, or your Essence Font, anytime that you Rising Sun Kick, it'll just extend that duration by 4 seconds, and it'll do like a little mini heal to all of them. So it's kind of like a little mini heal across everyone that's already being healed by you, and then it extends those heals, and it adds up to a ton of HPS over a fight. And then Mist Wrap. So this just buffs our Enveloping Mist, which that in and of itself isn't very strong, because we never really hard cast Enveloping Mists normally. However, this talent, Refreshing Jade Wind, when we choose it, we have our little adept Yulon. And Yulon could literally have its own video by itself, but what's broken about Yulon, it doesn't say anywhere in its ability what it does. So that's why I'm not even going to bother pulling it up in the spell book. So you'll summon her, she'll sit there and she'll just like heal things normally. But what she doesn't say she does is anytime that you cast Enveloping Mist on someone while she's out, she'll also basically like apply her own. And so it can get really out of hand when you have her out and you just start spamming Enveloping Mists. Now the only worry to that is that Enveloping Mist costs 3,000 mana. So you can't just sit here and spam it all day. As you see, my mana bar is just going down. That cooldown Yulon can get so dumb. It's basically how you get like the super high raid healing numbers, but it's only viable when you use it alongside like a druid's innervate, because then you can sit there and you can, while Yulon's out, you can spam those enveloping mists all day. But okay, so refreshing Jade Wind is definitely necessary, not just so that you get to use Yulon, but because it's a core ability in this Fallen Order build. Okay, so that's just like a quick overview of talents. The rest of them is just preference, like Manatee over Spirit of the Crane. It's just my preference for right now. Everything else, yeah, those are all not important. And then really quickly, before we get into the big bulk of why you're probably here, let's just go over the conduits. Now, once you swap VENTHYR, you will have to grind out this conduit a little bit. You just do the what's it called? The world boss on the map. Do it, and you can get like an upgrade. Or, I mean, like, I hate to mention Korthia, but like sometimes I'll just go into Korthia and kill like 1 or 2 of the little rares that spawn, and they'll drop like a conduit buff, and then boom, I'm done. But yeah, this just flat buffs your Fallen Order healing. Straight up just flat buffs it. So it's very strong. And then this is like a preference. It just buffs your revival, and then also can reduce your revival's cooldown by a little bit. It's not really worth mentioning, but like my raid lead puts my revival cooldown basically at 2:45 instead of 3 minutes, and that can kind of help us a little bit, but it's not too important. But it just buffs your revival, which just is always good in raid, because that's, you know, your biggest ability. And yeah, Gust of Mist sometimes will do a little bit more healing, which this is nice. Sometimes you'll just see like a fat number pop up from like your essence font, and it'll be because of this conduit. It just adds a lot of healing because of how you play the spec. Yeah, those are, and then for I just chose these defense conduits. Nothing else is really important other than these. This one though, when you cast Vivify on yourself, its healing is increased, and it can be free, which is, it's, if you see like all the top parsers, you see this conduit being used, and it's kind of, they kind of cheese it. But I just have it because I had another endurance conduit slot, and I just threw it in there. Okay, so conduits are out of the way. Now let's get into why you're watching this video. Let's talk about Fallen Order. So Fallen Order creates a completely different minigame that you have to play, and you have to be mindful of it. That minigame is you have a 24-second window. You have to fit as many crits as possible in that 24-second window to reduce its cooldown. It will do, the clones will do the healing. You don't even have to worry about, there's nothing that you can do to make them heal more. What you can do is you can have them out more often, basically. So your minigame is in that 24 seconds, how many times can I crit? Now this can be through damage. So in Mythic Plus, which if you guys want me to make a video on it, I'll make one. In Mythic Plus, you'll have all your hots out, and then you'll just start spinning Crane Kick. Oh gosh, now I'm in combat. Okay. Or in Raid, you just try to have as many hots out as possible, honestly, and then like when you have filler, you try to maximize the amount of rising sun kicks as you can, and like that's basically always your monk playstyles. You want to see how many rising sun kicks you can get in, but here that's like a secondary minigame to your main minigame of Fallen Order. So that's kind of it for that, but how do you go about doing that? How do you maximize that 24 seconds? The main way, it's very simple, is you try to keep, I don't even have it on my toolbar because I have my 4 button is spinning Crane Kick when I'm not targeting something or hovered. Then when I'm hovered over something, it's Renewing Mist. But Renewing Mist is a great way to do this. Let me see if I can find it here just to have it pulled up. I always like to have things pulled up. Okay, so Renewing Mist, it basically just puts a heal over time on someone. Now, why this is special is because it won't let itself overheal someone. If someone else takes damage while the person that your mist is on is full, it'll transfer over to that person, which is just nice. You get the full value out of it basically most of the time. But it sits there and ticks for 20 seconds. So you can apply a couple of these, and some of them will last the whole Fallen Order thing, especially because of our talents that we chose, where we are extending these enveloping mists, or renewing mists. So yeah, that's the thing that you want to do is you want to come into the 24-second window having like 3 or 4 of these renewing mists on people. And how you accomplish that is, these are my renewing mist cooldown bars, which I highly recommend making. Their weak auras, and I could even link them if you want me to in the description. But these are my 2 renewing mist charges, and I'm going to put one on myself. And see, I try to keep this one always on cooldown. Sometimes I'll use both. Like, I just try to keep them always recharging so that I maximize how much renewing mist healing I have. And you see it lasts a long time. So that's what I do in raid situations. I try to apply as many of those as I can outside of my 24-second window, so that in that 24-second window, those healing ticks are critting sometimes, and they really can, like, each tick can work from each renewing mist. Like, if you have 4 renewing mists out on 4 different people, and they all 4 tick at the same time, that's 20 seconds off, which is dumb. So renewing mists is like a really good way to eke out that last bit of percentage, and get that last, like, get a large chunk off of your cooldown. The second thing that I want to touch on is refreshing Jade Wind, that talent that I had spoke about, that I said I'll talk about later. I'll go ahead and use it. Mine ticks 13 times. See, I'm healing these people 13 times. That 500 is a crit. And so it'll sit there and it'll tick 13 times on 6 different people. Now you're probably saying, well, that's dumb. 13 times 6, I can't even do that math. Those numbers are too big. But that's a lot of crits. That's more than 36, surely. So that's gotta, just one of those has to reset the cooldown. No. So I wish that worked. Once again, I wish that each of those 6 ticks per, like, let's say second could reduce the cooldown by 5 seconds, but it just doesn't. How it works is, let me get to a chunk of people. So I'm in this group of people, and you see it's taking on multiple people. 1, 1, 1, 1. And you see how, like, sometimes it'll crit on both of them, like that time. That doesn't count as 2 crits. Each tick from it pulses out from me. Each of those ticks only counts once. So from 1 refreshing Jade Wind, you can get 13 crits, which is nuts. You most likely won't, but it's so dumb. It's basically, in the 24-second window, you want to have refreshing Jade Wind rolling the entire time. Right once it comes off cooldown, you pop it again. Because it's just it's 1 global cooldown, 1 button press, and you get 13 instances of crit. It's so dumb. So yeah, I've touched on that enough. When I'm in combat, I even have this to glow when it's off cooldown. That's how important it is to use it off of cooldown. This is, refreshing Jade Wind is so much healing for 1 button click that I use it off cooldown in the 24-second window of Fallen Order and outside. Like, I use it right once it's off cooldown the whole time I'm in combat. It's so strong. Okay, so that's that. I also want to touch on our other major hot, which is just its essence font. So there's not much talking about it. You'll sit there and you'll channel a bunch of heals out to people. Each of those hits count. Like, this is also, like, if you have, like, say you have 5 seconds left in your time of Fallen Order, and you have 30 seconds left on the cooldown, if you channel Essence Font for those last 5 seconds, you'll probably reset the whole cooldown, which, like, Essence Font's very strong for this. So those are just, like, our main ways of reducing it. Our other way is damage. Basically, just while we have no charges of this of renewing this on cooldown, our Essence Font's on cooldown, refreshing Jade Wind, we can't press it. Then you just do your normal cooldown rotation, which is, I'll get into the DPS rotation in a second, but it's basically just trying to get as many Rising Sun kicks as you can. That's it. Except for in Mythic Plus, you go for spinning crane kicks. That's it. Like, that's all you do is spinning crane kicks. So there. That's that. Now let's talk about the gear for a second. Well, I feel like I should talk about how I come into the cooldown. And plus, I haven't even used, I've just been standing here talking this whole time. So let me actually use the cooldown. So before I use Fallen Order, I like to have, you know, my hots out, all these out, and I try to come into Fallen Order with like 4 or 5 of them out on people, my Renewing Mist. And then I do Refreshing Jade Wind, and then I pop Fallen Order, and then I Essence Font, because all of these little ticks of the Essence Font going out give a lot of healing. See, Refreshing Jade Wind came off cooldown, I use it, and then since we're in multi-target, I'm just gonna spam spinning Crane Kick, but you see that cooldown timer is just ticking down. But you see I use Refreshing Jade Wind, off cooldown, Essence Font, off cooldown, but from there it's just DPS. And you see I was only able to get it down to about a minute because I'm in a 1-person party. But if I had like if I was in raid, that would have been like massive. 3 targets to get crits off of. Like in your raid, you'll have hots rolling on so many people that you'll just get so much time off. It's just broken. Yeah, so I'll do it one more time. But in the meantime, I can talk about the gear that we want. As you see, I have bloated up my crit stat. It's just the most, it's straight up the most important thing that we have. Well, I guess intellect is always important. If you have like a 220 weapon that gives like 200 crit, but then you get like a 252 weapon, you always take that weapon, obviously, just because of main stat, because main stat's king. But then after that, crit is like queen. Like it's so important. So I've gone over 30% crit, which is a notable number because once you go over 30% of like most stats in WoW, you'll get diminishing returns. So like right now I'm getting 30% crit, and then that extra 6%, I'm only getting 90% of that value. So I have basically 35.4 crit, if that makes sense, because I'm only getting 90% of that 6% value. So yeah, that's crit. You want to just pump as much crit as you can in your build. And then I like to go haste and verse. I try to like to balance these, but just whatever you prefer. I'm kind of to the point where I want to start pushing a little bit more haste, because mine's a little low, but I've been putting up some pretty dumb numbers with what I have right now. Also, leech is insane. It just straight up gives you a lot more healing, which is never bad, and it heals you, so it's like, yeah, screw everyone else, like you want the healing. And then speed sucks, don't even look at that. Verse just gives you flat healing. And then finally mastery, it gives you a lot of healing on some abilities, but not every ability. See, it tells you the abilities that it pumps. Most notably is like Enveloping Mist and Revival and Essence Font. Does it say Essence? It doesn't even do Essence Font. So yeah, it's like, it's just, it buffs those abilities quite a bit, but like, it's just not as worth it as haste and verse. Haste gives you faster ticks, which probably can give you like 1 or 2 more ticks in your Fallen Order window, which can be up to like 10 seconds off that ability. Like, it's just important. And then verse just buffs every ability's healing. So that's my take on stats. If you look at my gear, I like to use Soul Letting Ruby. I have it keybound to my Fallen Order. That's why when I hover over Fallen Order down here, it doesn't say Fallen Order over here, because I have those. That's literally one button. I press Fallen Order and it uses my Soul Letting Ruby too. And I also have Titanic Ocular Gland. I've been really lucky and got this from Mythic. It's the eye thing, and this just flat buffs my crit by just a little bit. So it's also very nice. And then from there, I've just gone overboard on the crit. This ring gives a ton of crit. I got crit verse on my legendary, which I'm going to go ahead and say I would, like, it's just better to do your wrist as your legendary, but I just went with my ring. 1, because I think the ring looks cool. I think when people use it, they're like hipsters. But 2, I also got this like nuts wrist from Tergru, and I just wanted to use it. So but yeah, every enchantment is crit. Every like gem is crit too. Just everything's crit. It's all crit. I also have a ton of leech, which I've just gotten lucky. But yeah, so that's stats. Now let me go through this Fallen Order cooldown again. Let's see. I start with Renewing Mist. I have a bunch of those out. Let's say I have it out on like 3 or 4 people. coming into my Fallen Order. I pop Refreshing Jade Wind, pop... Oh man, I was supposed to Fallen Order first. It even made the cooldown sound. But yeah, it doesn't really matter if you Essence Font like as the first ability in your 24-second window. But to me, it's just a personal preference, honestly. But I'm Essence Fonting and I'm Refreshing Jade Wind on cooldown. You know, reapply some of your hots if you have like 5 seconds left. That's literally it. That's all there is to it. And boom, I've won the minigame. I have this major cooldown up, which is, this cooldown's so strong, up in 40 seconds already. So that's that. Now I really quickly want to touch on what to do in this 40 seconds. What do you do while this ability is off cooldown? Well, what I like to do is step 1, Essence Font and Refreshing Jade Wind on cooldown. That's like your base rule, applies through whatever you're doing. Just those two abilities on cooldown every time. And then I like to focus on my Renewing Mists. So I try to have those out and then watch that cooldown. I'll let it tick down a bit. So watch this when I Rising Sun kick. Just gets more time. That's it. So I punch a couple times, Tiger Punch, and then use those stacked up blackout kicks from my passive. And boom, I just see I've reset the cooldown of my Rising Sun kick. Which I guess I could go ahead and go over that. So what I mean by all this is, let's go into our spell book. We have this passive where, as a monk, let me find it, because I think it's called like Teachings of the Monastery. I think it's a Mistweaver one. Yes, Teachings of the Monastery. Our Tiger Palms basically stack up extra blackout kicks when we actually cast blackout kick. And our blackout kicks can reset the cooldown of Rising Sun kick. So what I like to do is I like to have, if I have a lot of hots out on people, I like to have a couple of these blackout kicks stacked up on top of my next one. And then I like to Rising Sun kick to extend everything by 4 seconds. And then blackout kick, and hopefully like it'll hit like 4 times, and hopefully we get a reset on our Rising Sun kick cooldown. And then I like to use Thunder Focus Tea to, if you look, it says cooldown is basically reduced to nothing. So you let me start over. You have a couple tiger kicks stacked up. You Rising Sun kick, blackout kick. If it resets the cooldown, you Thunder Focus Tea so that your next Rising Sun kick will have no cooldown again, and then you just do it again. So you get 3 Rising Sun kicks off in no time at all. Let me show you. Let me hope that I can win RNG real quick. So I have 3 Tiger Punches stacked up. So my next blackout kick will hit 4 times. So let me just put a hot on myself. So watch this cooldown of the hot, but also pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm going to use Thunder Focus Tea. I'm going to blackout kick, and I'm going to Rising Sun kick. That's it. So let me renew that. So we kick once. It's on cooldown. I guess I ran out of time on my... Okay, let me do that again because I forgot this has a timer. Okay, so we have 3 blackout kicks stacked up. I'm going to Rising Sun kick, blackout kick. It hits 4 times. Reset that cooldown. So I'm going to Thunder Focus Tea, kick again. It's a very low cooldown. Kick again. Let me do it one more time because I know I suck at explaining it, but basically when you Thunder Focus Tea, it makes your Rising Sun kick have like no cooldown at all. Like 3 seconds, I think it is. So in that 3 seconds, I like to just like, you know, these 2 core abilities, Essence Font, Refreshing Jade Wind, just whichever one's off cooldown, I like to just press it. And then maybe get like 1 punch in. So I'm stacking up my blackout kicks. Let me go ahead and apply a hot to myself. I'm going to kick, use those blackout kicks. It reset. I cast Thunder Focus Tea, kick. I'm going to punch and then Refreshing Jade Wind and then kick again. Now I'll do that full speed. Hopefully, now the time that I do it full speed, it's not going to reset the cooldown, but let me just do it anyways. But we got to wait on this cooldown. I know I have this very bulky UI, but I like to see both of my teas. That's my mana tea. This is my Thunder Focus Tea. I like to see my trinket. My other trinket's not an on use. I like to see all my major cooldowns And then I just like to see my normal rotation, basically. These are the more important abilities. These, I don't even know why I have them on here. I kind of just imported these two icons and it just makes it even, but these don't need to be on here. Okay, so let me do what I was doing. So we're gonna punch a bunch of times, and then we're gonna kick, blackout kick. It didn't even reset. Wow. So let me just do it again. Just gonna keep punching, stacking up these blackout kicks. This is our DPS rotation, basically. So we're gonna kick, blackout kick, get the reset, thunder focus T, and then in those 3 seconds while it's cooldown, just do whatever you want, and then boom. So that was 3 rising sun kicks, 12 seconds added to all of our HOTS in the span of like 5 seconds, which is just, it's pretty strong. It adds to a lot of healing. Okay, what else do we have left? Let me think, let me just make sure there's nothing else that I didn't talk about. I know there's a lot of abilities that I didn't even touch on, because hopefully you're coming into this having done like the Fistweaver build or played Mistweaver before. But this is for you to specifically get used to Fallen Order. I guess before I end the video, I can touch on 2 abilities. One is Revival. This ability is so dumb. People sleep on it, but when the raid takes a big chunk of damage, you pop this instantly, and it'll heal so much. Like, they'll go down to like everyone is 40% health. You pop this, they're all full health. It's dumb. But it kind of has diminishing returns the higher their health. So if everyone's at 80% health, it'll do less healing. Basically, it'll have to be after like a big slam, and then you pop it immediately, and their health literally bounces back up. And then the final thing that I want to talk about is Yu'lon. I could go ahead and show you. Yu'lon, it's a very annoying how they didn't tell you anything about what it does. But so I'm going to summon her. She's out here for quite a bit of time. Let me just, I can't even tell you. She's out here. See how she's just literally peeing on people. She's spraying on people, and they're getting healed. Now let me cast Enveloping Mist on myself. And you see I gained 2 buffs. I have Enveloping Mist, which is what I did, and Enveloping Breath, which is what she does. This is why she's dumb, because you do this and you like, Enveloping Breath is basically never worth pressing. It's so much mana for not a lot of healing. But when you have Yu'lon out, it kind of just like gets worth it, I guess. Especially if you use Mana Tea, because it just cuts all of your cooldowns in half. All of your mana costs in half. Or if you have Innervate, it makes everything free. So you just start getting so much HPS, so much healing per second for 1 button press. So yeah, that's Yu'lon. It can be like a pretty slow raid cooldown, but does a ton of healing if you get an Innervate. So final thing I want to touch on is when you're VENTHYR, if you use Theatar, which you should, he just gives, he's just the best healing one. He gives you this tea. It's called the Mad Duke's Tea. All you have to do is find him in Revendreth, or find him in Sinfall, which is like the VENTHYR place, which I think he's over here. Yeah. Once you've unlocked him and everything, that's not even him. He'll be either over here or he'll be over where I just was. So you just talk to him and he'll give you this tea. And if you read it, you can use it once every hour, but it lasts for 4 hours, and it gives you a random stat buff other than mastery. So personally, I like to get Intellect, which is just the best one. If you get that, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pump tonight. And then I like to get Crit, because obviously we need Crit. And then I'll still feel lucky if I get Crit. And then sometimes I'll get Haste, and I'll be like, okay, but like it's not the best. And then same with Verse. And so like I just pop this before raid, and if it gives me a good stat, I just stick with it all night. If it gives me Int, I just stick with it and like I pump all night. But if it gives you another stat, like, after an hour's up, you just have to remind yourself, oh, like, yeah, I should try this again. Like, take another roll. Like, right now I have Intellect, so I would stay here normally. But just for the video, I'm going to use it again. Oh, okay, I got Haste. Like, that's just all you do. So just always remember to have that. If you need to make a weak aura, do that. But yeah, that's the basic guide. If you want me to make a guide on Mythic Plus, just let me know. If you want me to make a guide on weak ores, let me know, because like this, I know it's like bulky and it's right in the middle of my screen, but I love making weak ores and they help so much. And this one, just personally, it helps me. Also, if you want me to link any of these weak ores, like the charges for renewing this, or just how to make an icon one, let me know. Just let me know what you guys want. If you want to see me do a raid fight, let me know that. We're currently on Painsmith, so just, yeah, hit subscribe and like this video. Do all that stuff, and yeah, that's all I got for you. Thanks for hanging out all 30 minutes. Hopefully you start seeing a little bit better numbers, and hopefully you get this playstyle down, because I know it can be a little less fun while learning, but it's so much fun when you see those big numbers come up. So yeah, like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Tell me what you want, and I'll provide for you.